On today's Locked On Thunder podcast, the Oklahoma City Thunder showed the NBA just how small the margin for error is if you want to beat this Thunder team.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, media member, and beat writer for Thunder on SI, Rylan Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LO ThunderPod. On today's show, we're diving into the Oklahoma City Thunder getting this win over the LA Clippers and showing the NBA just how small the margin of error is against OKC. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. This is a game that the Thunder should have lost, frankly. The Clippers played really good basketball for 48 minutes. The Thunder did not have Chet, did not have J-Dub, and you got, I think, some of the best version of what the Clippers can do. They played harassing physical defense. The officials let them play that physical style that really junked up the game and really clogged the offense for OKC. You got 25 points on 50% shooting from Kawhi. A 17-point game from Harden on 28 efficiency. That's just a credit to the Thunder's incredible perimeter defense, and they also made life hard on Norman Powell. But ultimately, this game had the feel of a playoff game. Now, mind you, a feel of a playoff game without Chet, without J-Dub. And so you watch this game as it's unfolding, and it's clunky. There's no real flow to the action. The offenses both go stagnant. It's more of a half-court contest than usual in the regular season. By Clippers standards, this was a really great crowd. The Thunder didn't shoot their first free throw until the 5:01 mark of the second period. And it was two defensive-minded physical basketball teams that force ugly offenses, two coaching staffs that you have to respect making these adjustments to junk up the games with their schemes on the defensive end, and neither side could catch a rhythm. And so as this game's unfolding and all those things are true, and you know that come clutch time, which the Thunder have played the least amount of clutch games in the NBA and had to play a clutch situation tonight against the Clippers, that the Clippers should have been able to pull this one out. 8 lead changes, 8 ties. The Clippers grew a 12-point lead at the end of the first and started the second quarter. And yet, here we sit talking about another Thunder win. And it's because even without Chet, even without J-Dub, and even against a full-strength Clippers team who's played really good basketball as of late and is no pushover if this is the first-round draw for OKC, when it gets down to business at the end of a game, the margin for error is so small. And the Thunder have the thing that you can rely on and you can count on, right? This is not a house of cards. This is not something that's propped up by gimmicks or propped up by just one outstanding player or anything like that. This is a team that is first and foremost a defensive-minded team, and the way that they competed on that end of the floor won them this game. Alex Caruso won them this game. Ty Lue, not having a timeout, down 3 with 3 seconds left, won them this game. Because Ty Lue, who is by all accounts, and everyone can acknowledge, and everyone should acknowledge, he's a great coach. That small mistake cost them a game that they should have won. They should have been able to beat the Thunder. But when you make those even tiny, minuscule mistakes against this Thunder team, they're going to take advantage of it way more often than not, as illustrated by their 59 wins to this point. The fact that they have already clinched the number 1 overall seed in the tough Western Conference. The fact that they've won 10 straight road games, a new Thunder record. But you look at this, and there's really no reason the Clippers couldn't have won, because it felt like, okay, Kawhi's going to be able to get to his spots at will when you don't have J-Dub out there, because you couldn't play him tonight. He's injured. He's in street clothes. And you saw him take advantage of Case and Wallace on switches. You saw him even get the better of Caruso at times in the fourth quarter. And he was fantastic tonight, Kawhi was. And you had an off night from Shai. This was arguably the worst offensive game of Shai's season to date. He was not efficient whatsoever. Still got above 20 points, but he was not efficient in doing so. And the Clippers really could just abandon everything else and load up and throw everybody that they have at Shai, because even the gravity of Chet and J-Dub not being there to force you to stay home even a little bit really hurt SGA in this contest. And the Clippers did a great job in being disciplined and being aggressive without fouling a ton on Shai and with their defensive approach. And it was compounded by Isaiah Joe going 0 for 4 and Kenrich Williams went 0 for 2. Like you already had a short rotation. Two guys were 0 for, and you still won the game. If I told you all these things happened before the game, you would have looked at me like I had three heads, because this doesn't make logical sense when you say it out loud, except for the fact that the Thunder are just clearly the most dominant team in the league. I mean, they are the deepest team. They can just find ways to win, and they're built on defense, which is the least amount of variance of any NBA skill, any NBA trait, any NBA style. And that's why I really struggle with the idea that, like, if the only issue you can find with this Thunder team is that they're young and inexperienced and they haven't done it yet, and what about when the moments get big, and can Kaysen and Wiggins and them shoot the ball from three? Is J-Dub ready to be a number two? First and foremost, you have to acknowledge that this defense is going to simply keep you in games. It's hard to think of a pathway for a team to get blown out and for a team to blow out OKC come playoff time. Because if there was ever a time where a team should have been able to pull away and put away the Thunder, it was tonight, when the Clippers went on that run to grow a 12-point lead, whenever you didn't have Chet, didn't have J-Dub, and Wiggins really didn't get going until the fourth quarter. Like, he was spotty at times in this game, and credit to him for coming back around in that fourth quarter for the Thunder. But even he was spotty at times. But, like, Wiggins was your biggest threat off the bench, and yet you still let go of the rope, because the Thunder can still turn defense into offense. And the Thunder were excellent tonight at second chance points and crashing the offensive glass and giving themselves more bites at the apple to make up for that lack of production on the offensive end. But it's razor thin. The margins are razor thin, even when you do everything right. I thought this was an A+ Clippers game, because when you're facing off with Lou Dort and Caruso and these defenders, you bake into the cake an inefficient night for James Harden, an inefficient night for Norman Powell. You got the great Kawhi game. You got 15 and 11 from Zubac. You even got clutch buckets at times from Ben Simmons, who had 8 points and 7 rebounds, hit that floater, missed one shot in the whole game of his 15 minutes. Like, the Clippers got what they wanted, in terms of what you can hope for against a great Thunder defense. And they played great defense themselves, and it still wasn't enough because of those tiny details, like Ty Lue not having a timeout to advance the ball down 3. Because he forgot the timeout situation. And that mistake and misstep by a Hall of Fame great coach gets maximized when you're taking on the Thunder. Because they just need a tiny sliver. The horrific inbound from the Clippers off of that timeout and the steal by Caruso. Another mistake. They just need that little sliver to bust the door open and get another win. I thought this was an impressive win for OKC, one of their more impressive wins of the year, because, like, if you were to think up and dream up a plan for the Clippers to take on the Thunder and win a game, and what their path to victory is, even whenever these two teams are fully healthy, because tonight the Clippers were, the Thunder were not, it was an off Shai night, because you're throwing this length at him, you're throwing bodies at him, he's inefficient, and Isaiah Joe and the like is not beating you horrendously, because even the ones who did make shots wasn't like spectacular outside of, Caruso. He went 2 for 7 from 3. Like, even that wasn't great. J. Will was awesome, but it was really J. Will and Wiggins who were great tonight for the Thunder offensively at the end of the day. And you still couldn't do it. You still couldn't pull it off. I don't know how you beat this team, truly, because tonight was the night that they should have lost. And the fact that they still find ways to win and pick each other up and just take whatever the game needs, double down on it, and exceed at it is what makes them the West favorites, is what makes them a team that can win a championship this season. And that's the bottom line. You don't have to dance around it anymore. You don't have to have the reservations anymore. But this was just another feather in their cap. They've been doing this all season long. This isn't a new thing. This isn't a Clippers thing. This isn't a reaction to Sunday thing. It's just another checkpoint along the way. But I found this game thoroughly impressive. We'll talk about Caruso, who I thought was the player of the game, coming up. But first, let me tell you right now about our good friends over at Monarch Money. Go check them out today, because ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. With Monarch Money, it isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending to one place, so you can stop just managing your money and start building wealth. It's great to give you insight on how much you're spending with Monarch Money. I think that it's really helpful for how many subscriptions you have, to really see that all in front of you, and make decisions on if you need to keep all of them or not. Because sometimes we get in this cycle of not even knowing what subscriptions that we have. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. The Thunder got their 10th straight road win, a new Thunder record in the process. This game felt like a playoff game. These are two teams who should, I think, if the season ended today, meet in the first round. I think that, no disrespect to the Clippers, they should lose to Minnesota, and then they should beat whoever wins the 9-10 game in the play-in. And so that should set up a Thunder Clippers first round series. Obviously, they hope that they can make it out of the play-in tournament, but to me, it seems like the play-in format of the West is set. What's going to be mixing and matching from here on out will be 2 through 6. But I think that this could very likely be the first round series that OKC faces off with. And it was a fun game, and it shows you how fun of a series that this could be. It also, doesn't give us a ton of indication. What I find fascinating about a possible series is the Clippers, they've played each other so much this season, but one of the games they saw Jada playing the center. I mean, that's nothing. That means nothing come playoff time. One of the games they played the Thunder without Chet and without Jada. That means nothing come playoff time. They haven't seen the double big lineups at all, in terms of like hands-on experience with them. That means something. What does it mean? Is it going to be good or bad? We'll see. Like, that means something. And so these are two great coaching staffs that will have tricks up their sleeve that I think would be a very fun first round series if that's what ends up happening. But there's still a long way to go in deciding that one. But again, I love the Thunder's effort tonight. Even when things were not going right for them, they still kept punching back, and it's why they were able to get a win. But the big shot by Kawhi over Kaysen late, I thought was just an illustration of the Thunder are going to need J-Dub in this series to defend Kawhi. And Kawhi was still excellent. He was just nails down the stretch, and he was taking advantage of Isaiah Joe missing those 2 timely threes in the fourth quarter. But then here comes Alex Caruso. The end of game, last second stop, very reminiscent of last year whenever Lou Dort did the same thing to the Clippers at the end of a game. Caruso just shut down that possession. And Kaysen is not going to get enough credit for his late double in that play to make life even tougher on that shot. But Caruso, the steal on the inbound to set up the SGA free throws, like all of it was just incredible from Alex Caruso, who we're going to talk more about. But the fact that the Thunder survived 8 lead changes 8 ties, and the largest lead of the night for the Clippers being 12 while forcing 14 turnovers. That's the stat to watch for if you're wondering how much of any of this means anything for the playoffs. That's been a consistent trend with these two teams has been the Clippers turnovers and the Thunder forcing those turnovers against the Clippers. But deadlocked in points to the paint for these two teams, which is rare. The Thunder usually win points to the paint by a pretty large margin. Despite those turnovers, the Clippers actually pulled away a bit in the fast break point column, but the Thunder shot 40, 34, and 85 shooting splits. The Clippers shot 43, 30, 82 shooting splits. And hats off to Caruso and Kaysen and Lou as the defensive trio that helped the Thunder sweep the season series over the Clippers, but more specifically Alex Caruso, who I thought was the player of the game tonight. From the word go, he was a willing shooter. And I know it didn't look pretty, right? 2 for 7 from 3. Like that's not great. That's not what you should hang your hat on. But the fact that he was a willing shooter just off the dribble even, and getting to his spots and feeling confident with that shot, that's a progression. That's a point of like process over results that the Thunder always talk about. You want him comfortable. You want him confident shooting the basketball, even when the shots don't go in, because this is a guy who in his past has shot 40% from 3. Like we know he's a good 3-point shooter. If you've watched Caruso play basketball for any length of time, he's got to get back to that. You've got to start seeing these go in, but you can't see him go in if you don't take them. You can't see him go in if you don't take them confidently, and that's what he did tonight on the offensive end, and more so on the offensive end as he finishes with 14 points, 6 boards, 5 assists, 2 steals. I mean, the physical finish coming out of the timeout at the 8-minute mark was sensational on the dish from Hartenstein to stop the scoring drought. Like that was a crucial bucket that was the 8-minute mark. So like a lot happened afterward to wash it away. But if you don't score there to stop that drought before SGA gets back in the game and the Clippers do score on the ensuing possession, things can snowball out of hand. And those little tiny, again, creases for the Thunder to get in there and hang around and hang around and hang around leads to them ultimately overtaking you. And that's the bottom line for the playoffs. I think the Thunder will hang around in every single game. And the history shows us if you let them hang around, they're going to win. If you let them hang around, they're going to pull it off in the end. But his shot fake to get the defender in the air, I believe it was Harden, drive past him, and the touch no-look pass to Kaysen in the dunker spot for a play finish was huge. Whenever that secondary unit really needed buckets and really needed to create easy shots. He had that reverse finish in the fourth quarter to keep OKC within 1. And again, the lockdown defense, stealing the inbound, suffocating Kawhi on the last true possession, and a smart foul up 3 all add up. Only missed 1 shot inside the arc. So 2 for 7 from 3, but missed 1 shot inside the arc to get to 14 points. Had the conversion at the free throw line, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, as well as 2 steals. You don't win this game without Alex Caruso, and he was your most impactful player. You can debate about best. I think you're your best game, best stat line, and best impact in this contest. Let's talk SGA, though. Very slow start that never corrected. Like I wrote that in the notes whenever it was a slow start, ended up being a slow game. And he still gets to 25 points, 8 assists, 3 rebounds, 2 steals, and a block. 11 for 11 from the free throw line, but 1 for 7 from 3. And a shot that, like, if it went in, that rush 3 at the end, if it went in, people would be doing jumping jacks in the street. If it missed, which it did, and the Thunder lost, people would be crucifying him. I thought that the game management aspect of taking that early shot could have been handled a bit better. But again, it's a little bit like playing the results, because we've seen Shai take a quick 3 and nail it and change the momentum of a game in a hurry throughout this whole season from him. But that's just something of note. I do, you do notice a trend of the Thunder not nursing the ball, and it's worked out more often than not. They have the best record in the NBA. But it's just something to note as the playoffs creep in, and they're going to have to cling to these smaller margins more often in the playoffs. But 7 for 29 from the floor, 24% from the floor was just dreadful. Dreadful. In the sense of, his standard. He's usually the most efficient guard ever. Like that's his comparison. He's the most efficient guard ever. Now there's context to this. There's reasons why this was. This, I think, if you have the thought in your brain of like, oh no, if the play-in tournament unfolds the way that we think it will, and it'll be the Clippers and Thunder in round 1. Oh no, Shai's not going to be good in that series. Get that mind out of your head. First of all, a lot of these misses were shots that he historically makes. And the ball just didn't bounce right tonight. Now that can happen, right? That can happen in the playoffs. You can have shots not go your way and bad bounces. You look at the Pelicans, right? They end up getting swept last year to the Thunder, but they were a bounce away on that CJ McCollum prayer from at least winning a game, at least taking game one and not getting swept. I don't think it'll cost you a series because I think that Shai's shown you that he's not going to be inefficient 4 straight nights. He's not going to be inefficient 4 times out of 7. So it could cost you something. I don't think it'll cost you the thing from SGA not being efficient and from SGA not hitting shots that he typically hits. And from the Clippers defense part of it, the Clippers played very physical. The Clippers harassed, hounded, and sent bodies to SGA that is repeatable because they do have size and length. I'm not saying that SGA will just walk his way into an efficient 30-point night, 40-point night, 50-point night against the Clippers. I am saying it'll look way better than this because even if you want to believe that the Clippers are a good defense and have good personnel to defend Shai, which I would agree. When I say personnel, I think that the length that they can put on him, the shading that they can do on the back end to really, help out their point of attack defender and their coaching staff with Van Gundy and Lou out there cooking up schemes for a 7-game series, I think the Clippers could be an excellent matchup in terms of halting SGA, but it won't be this dramatic in the playoffs because for the Thunder to reach their goals and to be worth talking about come playoff time, they're going to have Chet and J-Dub. And if nothing else, the gravity of those two guys and the threat of those two guys forces you to stay home more. Now, not completely stay home. They're not going to play Shai one-on-one, but you're going to be late. You're going to be late getting to SGA, right? You're going to be a step later in the possession than you are right now whenever you just wanted to blatantly ignore everyone on the court besides SGA, which you could afford to do when Isaiah Joe's not shooting well and they don't have Chet and J-Dub. But when they have Chet and J-Dub, you want to stay attached to them as long as possible and then collapse around Shai. And then he's kicking out to, conversely, Chet and J-Dub and not the other guys. And those guys have a higher % chance of doing something with the ball, creating easy looks, creating points, and then shifting your defense that way. So the defense stuff will look completely different whenever SGA has those two guys. We should know that by now. What I think Shai deserves credit for in this game is twofold. First and foremost, excellent defense. Excellent defense. From the time he checked back into this game, he hits a tough mid-range jumper and plays suffocating defense to give OKC the lead after he entered down 1. Had a big-time block at the 4:10 mark, down 3. Huge deflection, spotting that it went off of Zubac to force the challenge and have a game-flipping play, which gives you the ball instead of the Clippers the ball under the basket. It was his worst offensive night, but he still stayed connected on the defensive end, still gave you exceptional defense, and still made winning plays. And there's a lot of guys out there who, if it's not going their way offensively, that they let that roll over into their defensive effort, into their defensive production. That's not SGA. And that leads us to the number 2 thing I think he deserves credit for, his ability to not play to a box score. This is another example of like the coach speak that the Thunder and their players give that I think you can see implemented. There's other teams who give you the same coach speak and you watch them play and you realize that's a little malarkey. But you watch the Thunder play and they're actually implementing it. And so whenever Shai talks about doesn't care about stats, doesn't know the box score, doesn't know these statistics, doesn't know the accolades, doesn't know this, that, and the third, tonight is a night where you believe him because his processing with the ball in his hands, his shot selection, his intensity, his effort, his kind of process never changed, never wavered. And there was even some comments of like, well, Shai's having an off night. Why isn't he getting off the ball more? Well, frankly, if you want to be blunt, Shai getting off the ball more was not the answer. The answer was Shai keep trying to get the car back on the road because you're really the only offensive engine on this roster right now with those other guys sidelined. So we're going to need this to get back to get back corrected to win this game. But number 2, you don't want him just like, oh, I'm not having a good night. I'm just being passive. I'm just deferring. And then you've taken him out of the game. And in that fourth quarter, he had the 2 blocks and the 4 points, and both he had the 2 points from the free throw line. But like you also were able to use him as a decoy to set up a J Will layup off of a blob play, which is a testament to not playing to the box score and staying as aggressive as you always have been, seeking the same shots you always seek, because you still were able to draw all that attention on that blob play away from J Will on the cut to get the N1 bucket. So I just think he did a really good job of blocking out that noise and just playing his game. And sometimes you play your game and it doesn't work, right? Everyone has off nights. We have off podcasts here. You have days off at your job where you're just not your typical great self. It happens to everybody. I would argue that this is an off podcast, replicating SGA on the floor, which is usually a good thing. I think tonight might be a little bit of a bad thing that we're replicating him. I don't feel great about this show so far, so let me know what you think about it down below. But nonetheless, credit to the Thunder for getting this win. Coming up, let's talk J Will, who was just nails again, Wiggins, who came alive in that fourth quarter, and more. Let's talk Thunder basketball here on Locked On Thunder. I'm your host, Rylan Stiles. Follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at LO Thunderpod. J Will. I mean, the threes were timely threes when this team desperately needed them. He had the bucket we talked about on the blob play with the N1, which brought him, of course, an extra 2 points in the column with the free throw to make it an N1 for the three, but ends up with 12 points, 7 boards, 2 assists, 3 for 3 from 3, 4 for 4 overall. With a block, by the way. With a block. I thought that J Will continues to deliver, and don't look now. Actually, do look. Pull up Basketball Reference page. See what he is shooting in the month of March, and my goodness. I mean, take the second half alone, where he gave you 6 points, 4 rebounds, and was 1 for 1 from 3, 2 for 2 from the floor, which is whenever he had that N1 to go 1 for 1 at the free throw line on the night. Like the second half was really good offensively. In the first half, he was good, and I think that he got thrusted in a little bit early with the foul trouble to Hartenstein early on. But J Will continues to be the best version of himself. We've never seen J Will play basketball this way, and the reason why I think that the progress is real from him is because we've seen him so much in other roles. Like J Will is not the guy like whenever Wiggins had his extremely hot streak, he was always a guy who, even at his best previously, you were left wanting to see him play more minutes. Like his role was never expansive, right? We have a massive sample size of J Will in various roles of the starting center his second half of his rookie year, the only backup big man last year, and now this year where he's fluctuated into the starting lineup, primary backup big, third string center, all of these roles constantly changing due to injury. And this has been the best version of himself here these last few weeks. And I think that you're just seeing him physically look a lot better. The production being there is awesome, but I've always talked process over results, just like the Thunder. I've always talked about those sort of things. The processing with the ball in his hands, the shot selection, defensive processing of being in the right spots, the athleticism, I think, has improved. Now, look, he can't grow magically, right? So he's still going to be behind the 8 ball in the height category, but he's timing his jumps better at the rim to get better contests, using his leverage better on bigger guys, playing underneath them. Like he's doing things that are repeatable and sustainable. He's just simply playing his best basketball. Isaiah Hartenstein, I thought, had a really good hands game. Really good hands game. Like Hartenstein has been worth every single penny for this Thunder team, and you really can't pick apart anything about his season, but if you wanted me to, I would point to his hands. He doesn't have bad hands. You can't have bad hands. I mean, $87 million man. But there's been a lot of times where he's bobbled rebounds away, bobble the dish, and he just doesn't have that strong catch point the way that J Will does. Like J Will today won't get credit for it on the box score, but whenever Mark calls him a safety blanket tight end, you can go and look at the Wiggins missed 3 in the corner. That illustrates that play perfectly. where Jaylin has the ball swung to him. He has to kind of dig it out as it's a low throw, rip it from the defender trying to play the passing lanes, and then swings it to Wiggins for a wide open three. Shot didn't go in. It will not be remembered at all after this game, but like it just shows you what like a strong catch point is. And there's been times and very, 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 very small times, right? Like this is not a huge problem, or else we'd be talking about it a lot more. Where like Hartenstein's hands leaves a bit to be desired, but I thought his catch points were stronger tonight. You saw it with the first 4 points coming off of bailout passes from SGA in the lane. He ends up with 14 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, and 3 blocks. Ultimately, I thought that you can watch Hartenstein's minutes and see the inconsistencies from the officials. And this is not a Thunder thing. This is a entire game thing. Like the first couple of fouls on Isaiah Hartenstein were brutal, and you were thinking, well, they're going to call everything tonight. Then from that moment on, they start letting everything go. Then they get back into calling everything. I thought it was inconsistent for both sides, and that's what I think both sides would hate about the officiating in this situation. I think we shouldn't ask for consistency in the sense of game 1 through 82. Every single play is called the exact same way. But I think that you could ask for and should demand 48 minutes of consistency. If this crew is going to let you play physical, let's play physical. Let's let these two great defenses who both would love to play physical, let them both play physical defense. Let them both do that for 48 minutes. And the Clippers got the wrong end of it at times in the second half. The Thunder got the wrong end of it the entire first half of not letting them play physical while letting the Clippers play physical. But like the inconsistency within the 48 minutes is what you see teams have trouble with. Because it's human nature that each crew is going to view things a bit differently. That's why these are sometimes judgment calls. Well, if we all have different judgments, look at your daily life. Like we all judge things and view things differently. Same thing with judgment calls on the floor. So I get that the crews will be inconsistent night to night, but you've got to be consistent within this 48-minute, 3-hour window. You've just got to. And they weren't tonight, and that's kind of one of the stains on this game. But I thought ultimately both teams responded well to it. And it didn't, I don't think, influence the outcome of the game. I think it influenced stretches of a game. I think that it influenced the perception of the game. But in reality, I do think it all evened out in the wash. For as bad as the whistle was against OKC in the first half, I think that it evened out a little bit down the stretch of this game, and the Thunder were able to get this win. Lou Dort, you cannot say enough about his lead defense. I thought that this was one of his better defensive games, which is saying a lot because of the high standards that he has. But what I found really great about this game from him was that he was excellent at screen navigation. And he did not just try to bait illegal screens over and over and over again. Now, he is elite at baiting illegal screens. And you live with it whenever it puts him in a position, because more often than not, he creates you a possession doing so. But sometimes you just want to see Lou Dort dig in and guard your yard. You're such a great defender. Just be a great defender. You don't need to do all the other stuff. And tonight, he was great at staying within himself and just playing defense. Don't try to draw every single illegal screen in the world. You even saw him contesting shots while being hung up on screens on James Harden threes that threw off Harden, made him miss the shot, and helped the Thunder win this game. I thought that Lou Dort did a really good job of being composed on both ends, because offensively, that baseline pass to the corner for three, like that's a playmaking possession from Lou that would not have happened 2 years ago, would have even happened 10 months ago probably from Lou Dort. Like he's consistently gotten better at that and routed into form. He was perfect inside the arc. Another area he's consistently gotten better at. 2 for 4 from 3, a steal, a block, 10 points, 2 assists, and 4 rebounds. Wiggins, what a fourth quarter from Aaron Wiggins. And we've got to squeeze this in really quickly. Sorry about this, Nick Hangstead. Wiggins in the fourth quarter, 7 points, two rebounds, and it's 60% shooting, 1 for 1 from 3. He ends the night with 19 points, 3 rebounds, an assist, and 3 for 8 from 3 on 47% shooting. I thought that the drive and finish from Wiggins to start the fourth quarter was a tempo changer. The competing his butt off aspect of the defense, where this is an area of his game he's been open about not being comfortable guarding bigger bodies like Kawhi and Derrick Jones Jr. I thought he really held his own in that regard. Kawhi had a great night, but Wiggins was constantly in the right positions. It kind of goes back to our J-Will point. Wiggins can't magically grow and bulk in the middle of a game, so you just kind of have to live with it at times, but he was always in the right spots and playing well on that end. The turnaround jumper in the fourth was jaw-dropping. The wide open deep three on a second chance point is what helps you tip the scales in this game and get a win. But the Thunder beat the Clippers. We'll talk more about this game tomorrow, probably. And tomorrow, we're going to rank the top 5 blank games that could happen in the playoffs. You always hear the term, oh, this is the Isaiah Joe game, or this is the whoever game in the playoffs. What are the top 5 most likely games for the Thunder in the playoffs? We'll do that tomorrow. Until next time, be good and be good to one another.